Hello out there, and welcome to this overview of the podcast, My Grocery Adventure, a podcast for people who want to make an impact in the world. It is my passionate belief that there are many people out there who want to do good in the world and who are doing good in the world, and this podcast will hold them up, shine a light on them, and in the process, ideally illuminate what does it actually look like to live a life of intentional impact. Maybe it's what you think, maybe it's not what you think. It just depends, and everybody's story is going to be different. This is probably a matter of personal opinion, but I am of the opinion that in this world, especially in our social media era that we are living in, that there is such a portrayal of creativity and leadership and what it means to make an impact in the world. There's a glossy overlay. There's a trophy case only kind of portrayal of like, here's all the ways that I've won, and here's like the great milestones along the way. And not that that information shouldn't be shared or anything like that. Everybody is totally free to do exactly what they want. But my personal opinion is that what's really valuable, useful, helpful for somebody who wants to make an impact for real, like you're ready, you're like, put me in, coach, wherever I'm needed, like that's what I want to do. But then they look around at this highlight reel kind of society where we're only sharing the positive with each other, where we're kind of glossing over any of the setbacks, the delays, the second guessing, the self-doubt, the gut punches that you have to like friggin' recover from just to keep going. Like, those are the pieces where it feels, what's the right word here? It feels irresponsible is the only word that can come. And I mean no disrespect, as far as like, it feels irresponsible to send someone out into the world thinking they're going to make an impact and that it's going to look like a highlight reel, because it's just not. It's just not going to look like that. When you actually live the path and you go through the day by day, step by step by step, moment to moment to moment version of it, there are many great moments. And there are moments where you want to give up, you want to quit. There are so many ways where there can be hard moments. And I think one of the biggest gifts that anyone can ever make into the collective is to be real and authentic about my own personal experience. Here's what it looked like for me. And to open a door into my experience and let you see a bigger, wider version of the story. Not the 30-second, like this, and this, like let's hit the high points version. These will be hour-long episodes on purpose, where we are intentionally taking our time to understand and digest kind of the turn-by-turn navigation of events, like what happened to get you from point A to point B. The guest that I interviewed on episode 6, that was just yesterday, so it's fresh in my mind. Like, she said that, looking back now, I can see the straight line. I can see that, of course, where I am today, this, it was because I was here, and that was because I was there, and that was because I was there. Like, I can see the straight line looking backwards. But in the moment, when you're in the middle of it and, you're living out the dot by dot by dot connecting, there isn't that hindsight to get to rely on. And the highlight reel can give that illusion, I think, of it's only high moments. It's only moments where you know that you're on fire and you're doing the right thing and you're golden, you're good to go. Like, again, there will be lots of moments where possibly like you feel better than you've ever felt before, because when you're making an impact, part of that too, I think, is that it has to be meaningful to you. And if it is, that is ultimately the well of resilience that we each have access to, is like, if it means something to us, if it's important to us, then we will find the resilience to keep going. There's so much out there selling people motivation, and I think that's a little bit missing the mark. And what I hope to dig up and excavate through these conversations is the meaning behind what the people are doing. It's not about being motivated. It's not about like, oh, I got to do this 5 days a week, or I got to do this for X hours a day. Like, dude, like, you can set all of the parameters you want that sound like that. But if it doesn't mean something to you, as soon as there's a roadblock, as soon as there's a dissenting opinion or an opponent who wants to get in your face and shove you a little bit, metaphorically speaking, hopefully not physically speaking, but that oppositional force that wants to show up and be like, are you sure you want the thing? Are you sure you're willing to stick it out and to fight for it, even when that is what is being asked of you? How much do you believe in what you're doing? That's ultimately the question that resilience answers, right? Either we have what we need to keep going, AKA it matters to us enough to dig a little deeper if that's what we need to do, or it doesn't matter enough to us to dig deeper and find the resilience to continue to persevere. It's not a matter of motivation, it's a matter of meaning. So that is one of the elements that I hope to uncover and illuminate through these conversations of listening to these people's stories, is like, there is no magic sauce. There's no crystal ball. There's no like grand plan where you're gonna have it all figured out and that's why you did such a good job. No, like almost every single one of these stories is like, I knew myself. I knew what I wanted and what I didn't want. I knew that I couldn't picture myself doing this, but that I did want something that sounded like this, this, and this. You know, making an impact in the world, I think, starts with making an impact in your own world. And we do that initially by building that relationship with ourselves where we know what we're doing. We know why we're doing it. And like having access to that, having access to the meaning that's driving your decisions, the meaning that's guiding how you're spending your days. When you have those two things connected, your daily life structure and your values, when those two things are in sync, that is something of a limitless place. As far as at that point, you can do anything that you deem meaningful and valuable, right? Like if it means something to you, you can persevere until you get there. So making an impact is, I believe, and what I'm seeing through these stories, making an impact has a lot to do with falling in love with what you're doing, which again goes back to it's meaningful, it's valuable, I like it, it personally suits me. And once you're in love with what you're doing, once it's meaningful and valuable to you, the path pretty much unfolds itself. So making an impact, it may or may not look like what you really think it does. And I think, I plan to tell my own personal story through multiple episodes. Like I said, we'll take our time and really get to see how things unfolded. But we'll also get to hear other people's stories, and you will get to draw your own conclusions about how it works best for you in your life to go about making an impact yourself, assuming that's even what you're trying to do. So thank you so much for hanging out with me and learning a little bit more about what you can expect as you listen on in my grocery adventure. The first episode is out now with Tom Mulholland of Mulholland's Grocery. Poor Tom, his store burnt down to the ground, his grocery store, his town's grocery store. And he is almost retirement age, and he is on the very long road to rebuilding that store for his community. It is such a beautiful way to open up this podcast. We have 3 episodes with Tom to start us off, getting to hear his story in depth of how it has been living what I can only imagine is like the gut punch of all gut punches, to watch your store, your your life's work, kind of your family's life's work, burning in front of you and there's nothing you can do. And what do you do afterwards? You try to put it back. You try to build it. You try to get it back to what it was, and maybe it's even better. Maybe you can find an opportunity in this tragedy. So it is such an inspirational story of resilience and making an impact for all of those reasons that we talked about, because it means something to him personally to do that with his life. So it is, again, beautiful story. I hope you'll check it out. The first episode linked in the description box. Take a second, like the video, share it with your friends who you think might be into this content. Subscribe if you're interested. All of these little nudges are telling the algorithm that you think other people might enjoy this as well. And I really appreciate you doing that, especially once we get to the episodes. I really appreciate you showing your appreciation in the comments to our guests who are taking their time to come and share their stories and give us that inside look at a real life version of what it looks like to live a life of meaningful impact. Thank you again for being here, and I'll see you soon.